Yo, what is going on, guys? My name is Hart, and today I'll be breaking down the Sunday main slate on DraftKings, 12 games. This will be an early look video. I'll have a video out Friday or Saturday of my final picks for the slates going into Sunday, so stay tuned for that. But if you're new to the channel, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn that notification bell. If you hit that like button, I truly appreciate it. It really supports my channel. Really do greatly appreciate you guys hitting that like button, as well as follow me on Twitter, HartDFS, answering any questions you guys have, putting up DFS stats to help you guys there, PrizePicks plays, fantasy football stuff like that. So a lot of good stuff to check out. Now let's get into the breakdown. As I said, this is going to be a pretty quick one. Just kind of like going over the initial plays, kind of where I'm thinking of heading towards when it comes to the plays and picks for Sunday, as well as the general public. And I can generally say, like, for this QB range, it's pretty much just looking like a guys at the top and then guys at the bottom. There really is no mid-range right now. I'd say Herbert and above, top four guys there. And then pretty much, you can dip down into the kind of mid-range. I don't know. You can kind of go all over, but it's going to be very, very heavy towards the top of Josh Allen and Hurts for good reason. Obviously, we know what we're getting from Josh Allen. We know what we're getting from Hurts. They both have massive, massive upside when it comes to rushing the ball, and they can both throw for over 300 yards. Obviously, Allen's a lot better of a thrower than Hurts, but Hurts has been doing great this yeyear. So I think these guys are both going to be probably 15, 20% owned, if not more. They both have great matchups. 14-point favorite for Josh Allen versus Pittsburgh. I think Philly versus Arizona should be a decently scoring game as well. Kyler Murray going up against that Eagles defense is going to be a little interesting. He also hasn't been doing well at all when it comes to the first half. I think he's second among QBs in scoring when it comes to the second half of football. So he's done really well in the second half, not good in the first. I don't know if that's a good thing for you to play in tournaments. It'll be probably low ownership in Kyler. He does have massive upside, but if the Eagles go up, they're just going to run the ball. I do expect that to really hurt the chances of Kyler Murray being able to pay off his salary. So I don't think I'm going to go there. Would rather get to Allen and Hurts and just get a little bit different when it comes to the plays you're going to, play him with to get to contrarian. I do like Herbert a good amount this week, like I did last week. He had 24 last week. Did lose Josh Palmer, so it's pretty much Eckler and Mike Williams he was thrown to. But I don't mind getting back there versus Cleveland. Stafford versus Dallas looks okay. It's really hard to trust that offensive line. The offense looks terrible right now. San Francisco's defense is probably a little bit better than Dallas's, but Dallas's defense has the most, I think, pressures and QB sacks through the first 4 weeks, and that just doesn't bode well for Stafford, so I don't think I'm going to go there. Don't mind taking a shot on Kirk Cousins. They're going against the Bears defense. Should be a piece of cake for him, but I do really like Dalvin Cook going against those Bears defense, so I don't think I'm going to play Kirk Cousins. Tua's out, so you can go to a guy like where is he? Teddy Bridgewater if you want, but I think my favorite play in this mid-range is going to be Tom Brady. Now, it did come out today that he is questionable with a thumb injury and a shoulder injury. He also, I don't think he practices on Wednesdays anyway. I think that started this year where they said they're going to give him every Wednesday off, but I think he'll be fine. He was able to play that whole second half of that Kansas City game. Didn't look like it affected his throwing at all. So Tom Brady is going to be probably the third most popular quarterback on the slate for good reason. Huge upside going against Atlanta, only 6K. So all those Tampa Bay guys are going to be super, super popular. And I think I'm going to, eat the chalk there because I've been on Brady pretty much every slate so far and it hasn't paid off. So really going to, hope it works out this slate and kind of go there. But as of right now, I do think he's my favorite quarterback play just because of the price difference compared to Allen and Hurts. Jared Goff, coming off that fantastic game against the Seahawks. Don't think I'm going to go there when it comes to him playing against New England's defense. They're going to stick to just running the ball with their backup, Zappy, and just kind of, draining the game that way. Their defense is still pretty solid. They held Aaron to, 20 points, and then they went into overtime, and now is at home for the Packers. So I don't think you get to force Jared Goff coming off that big game. Tannehill just doesn't throw the ball a ton for me. I do think they're going to run the ball that whole game. Wentz, we know what we're getting with Wentz. He's going to pass the ball a ton. It's just, can he get touchdowns? Hasn't showed it the past 2 weeks. He does have some upside, but I just don't trust going to Wentz. Brissett, no. Lawrence, I don't mind getting Lawrence at 5,600. You know, he's had an okay start to the season, really showed out against the Chargers, and then obviously going against Philly's D and like a hurricane doesn't help. But I don't mind getting back to their wins in the Jaguars. They looked really solid this year. They're going against Houston, so at 5,600, he looks pretty solid. Don't like Geno Smith going against New Orleans D. Coming off of 2 really good games, but obviously he's going against Atlanta and Detroit, so I'm not going to trust that. Winston might be back for New Orleans, which you could take a dart throw on. You know, Seattle is giving up a bunch of big plays, but we'll have to see if he plays. And that really does it for me. No one else really stands out. Yeah, it really does it for me at the quarterback position. Running back position, McCaffrey looks okay, but going against San Francisco's defense, really don't like that. I mean, but he does have the upside of the pass catching back out of the backfield. We all know that. Derrick Henry, love him going against Washington. The past 2 games, done fantastic. Expect more from this game. He's just going to run all over this Washington team. So I like him at 8,200 as a pay-up option. Same thing with Chubb. I mean, Chubb doesn't have the receiving upside. He did get 2 catches last game, but really expect him just to rush the ball about 20 plus times. I mean, he is kind of scoring dependent because if he doesn't get that touchdown, it's going to take away 6 points. But he should have no problem rushing against this Chargers defense. Eckler looks really solid. I mean, he's pretty much running back and a wide receiver at the same time. 7+ targets the past 3 weeks. So really like him. Coming off a huge game, so I don't mind running back with him. I think my favorite play is Dalvin Cook going against the Chicago defense. He's seen the touches. It's just he hasn't found the end zone besides one time going against Detroit. And he didn't get any targets that game. So I really like Dalvin. He's going to have a breakout game one of these games, and I do think it's going to be against the Bears. So I really like him as one of my running back plays. Lenny Fournette, I do like him a good amount just for, he's kind of like an Eckler. Like you could pair him with Tom Brady to get different from the field because I think the field is going to go towards just Tom Brady, Mike Evans, and Godwin. And then if you want to, fade the field, get contrarian, get off that chalky stack, you can definitely look to Leonard Fournette as one of those guys who is involved in the passing game. Once again, they're going against Atlanta, so maybe they're going to run the ball more and pass a little bit less, so maybe he doesn't get as much targets. But Tom Brady does like dumping the ball down. He will see probably 15+ targets or rushing attempts in this game as well. So if the game gets out of hand, you can expect Leonard Fournette to get some rushing attempts. Maybe they'll bring in Rashad White, but I don't mind getting to Leonard Fournette, 6,900. Kamara against Seattle D. I don't mind getting there, especially because I think this questionable tag, it's going to scare off some people. Not had a great season so far, but we know that Seattle defense is very, very bad. We want to target it, as we saw from last game. Jamal Williams had a great game. Kamara is way better running back. Hasn't showed it this year, but really like going to him if he's going to be full go. Najee Harris against Buffalo's defense, not going to do that. Coming off a bad game against the Jets, just don't think you to force that. Jamal Williams against New England's defense, not going to go there. He looks okay. Had that great game, in versus Minnesota, but what did I say? Minnesota's defense is not good. Same thing with Seattle. Don't think you to force it. Miles Sanders, I have a little bit of interest in him, especially if Boston Scott is out. If he's in, takes my interest down a little bit. But if he's going to remain out, do think you can run it back with Miles Sanders here versus the Cardinals at 6,500. That's a pretty solid price for him. He is seeing the main back touches, as you saw, 27 was also Hurricane, so he did see a little bit more, but I think he's safe for 15+ touches. Can get involved in the passing game on arguably the best team in the NFL, so I do have some kind of interest there. Madison, not for me. Dalvin's back. James Robinson going to be one of the chalky running back plays on the slate, going against that Houston defense. I know he's coming off a bad game against Philadelphia, but as I said, the whole team just looked bad. It was a hurricane. They just didn't play well at all. But before that, against the Chargers, he ran for 17 for 100 and a touchdown. He can get involved in the passing game as well. He is the main back for them. As you can see, the first 3 games, very, very solid. Going against this Houston defense, who gives up a bunch of big plays. As we saw with Eckler just destroyed them. So going to be one of the most chalky plays, running back plays on the slate is going to be James Robinson. Patterson is out, so you can look to a guy like Huntley and Algier. I don't think I'm going to do it because they're going against Tampa Bay's defense, who is very, very good. They looked a little bit sus this year, but I just think, forcing one of those value plays is not the move. I think I'd rather do that at wide receiver position. James Conner looks okay, hasn't had a great year at all. He's seen the touches, it just hasn't equated to anything. So if you want to take a shot on him, maybe he gets involved in the passing game if they go down. But I think I'd rather just pay up for people or pay down. Pierce going against the Jacksonville defense. He looks okay. Do think he's going to be a little bit over-owned. Did break off that long touchdown, 75 yards, so that really helped his fantasy score there. He did get over the 100-yard mark because of it as well. Is seeing a good amount of touches, 15, 20, 14. Did see an increase in the targets out of the backfield, only for 8 yards, so a little hard to trust there. Expected to have a good amount of ownership, so I don't think we have to go there. Monty might be back. That is interesting if he's back. I don't mind taking a shot there, especially if he's full go, but we have to keep a question mark on that, or eye on that. Singletary is an interesting option. They are 14-point favorites. He's the main back right now. Maybe he sees a little bit more rushing attempts. He's been getting heavily involved in the passing game as well. 11 targets, 5 targets, caught 4 of them. He's a little bit fumble prone, but I don't mind taking a shot here, getting a piece from that Buffalo Bills game. Singletary could be a good guy for that. Kareem Hunt. I do have a decent amount of interest in Kareem Hunt. I mean, he's getting the touches. It's just that he's not finding the end zone, obviously, because they're going to go to Chubb most of the time in the red zone. So it kind of relies on Hunt to get like a longer touchdown or a passing touchdown. But in this game versus the Chargers, it could be a shootout until this last game. I think the Browns were one of 2 teams in the NFL to average 26 more points through the first 3 games. I think it was the Browns and the Falcons, if I'm not mistaken. So the Browns have been able to score points. They haven't faced the toughest teams, Carolina, the Jets, Pittsburgh, and Atlanta. But I do think going against the Chargers, whose defense has been very, very susceptible, do think this is a spot for you could take a shot on Kareem Hunt at 6K. Going to get involved, especially if they go down to that potent Chargers offense. Khalil Herbert, you could look to him. He's a decent play. But if Monty's back, don't think to force that. Gibson, his snaps are just going down every single game. I just don't think you can trust that. Brian Robinson's almost back, going against a solid Tennessee defense. Just don't think I'm going to get there. Zeke, Tony, going against the Rams. Zeke's getting the touches, kind of like a few of these guys in the running back room. They're getting the touches, but they haven't equated to any scores yet or any, relevant fantasy points. 5,800 is a very cheap price tag on Zeke, but once again, going against that Rams defense, who is pretty solid, I don't think we can trust it. Not Monster, but Wilson was able to break off a 30-yard touchdown against them, but other than that, the Rams D wasn't giving up much. So I don't think I'm going to get to either running back for the Rams or for the Cowboys. Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson are going to be 2 of the most chalky running backs on the slate, alongside Dalvin Cook and James Robinson. They both split carries. Stevenson is more of the third down back. Harris is more of the first down, second down. He saw 18 attempts for 86 yards and a touchdown. Had a catch as well. And then Stevenson saw 14 for 66, but also caught 4 for 23 yards. So as you can see, Stevenson is obviously clearly the third down back, the pass catching back. I mean, Harris can do that, but it's going to be one of those things where it's very frustrating because you don't know. It could be one of those things where Stevenson's in most of the drive, and then they bring in Harris if they get close to the goal line, or Harris is in closer to the most of the drive, and then they bring in Stevenson. Like, you can really get screwed on touchdowns here when it comes to them because they split both of them pretty evenly, and they're both really solid and really productive. I give the upside to Stevenson because of the pass catching ability and how they like to use him right now with catching the ball out of the backfield. But that also means that a lot of the public will be on him, and he'll probably be a little bit more high owned compared to Damian Harris. But I do think I prefer that, and they're going against Detroit's defense, who I've said we want to target because they're probably one of the worst defenses in the league, if not the worst. We saw what Rashad Penny was able to do, so these guys should both be able to eat. Do expect them to be very, very high owned. K-Makers looks okay against the Dallas defense. Hasn't had a great season at all. Don't think you need to force that, especially when you have Stevenson and Harris in a way better matchup. Jeff Wilson, I don't mind getting to Jeff Wilson here versus Carolina. Carolina's defense has been okay, solid. Jeff Wilson's been okay, solid, but I just don't think there's a high enough ceiling to pay off that $5,500 salary, especially when you can just pay up a little, same price for Stevenson, $100 more for Harris, who have that 25 plus potential in that matchup versus Detroit. Henderson Jr., not for me. Ingram, no. Breece Hall is into running back one territory with the touches and the targets out of the backfield. Looks really, really solid. The issue is he's questionable, as well as going against Miami's defense, who's been pretty solid this year as well. But I don't mind taking a shot there if you want to pay down for a cheaper running back. Penny goes against New Orleans defense, not for me. I don't know what to do with Edmonds and Mostert. I do think I'd prefer to get to Mostert just because he's a little bit more of the bruiser back. He's going to see probably close to 15 attempts this game. Can get you a few passes as well. Do think they're going to run it a little bit more with Teddy Bridgewater as a QB. I mean, he's more than capable of throwing the ball, as we saw last game. But going against that Jets defense, do think Mostert looks pretty solid there at that price of $5,000. Don't mind taking a shot there. And tournaments, McKissick, you could look to get to McKissick. He's going to be involved in the passing game. Did see 8 attempts, which is, what you do like to see for 40 yards. Did catch 3 balls, only for 16 yards, but expect them to be down pretty much every game. So McKissick is firmly in play at 5,200. ETN, you could look to go there for ETN. Obviously wasn't very involved in that game versus Philadelphia because of how bad the offense is doing. But going against Houston, do expect him to get involved a little bit. So I don't mind going there. I don't think you have to, but you can definitely take a dart throw there. Rachaad White, I don't think you get to do it. They are only really got involved because they were just down so much. Burkhead, more of just the passing option for Damian Pierce. You can look to get to him, but kind of touchdown dependent. They're not going to really use him unless they go down a ton, which they might versus Jacksonville. We'll have to see, but I don't think you get to force that. I'd rather get to Mostert, who has the split carries and the upside. He actually plays versus Burkhead. Gainwell, no. Carter, no. As I mentioned, Algier is probably going to fill in as running back one for the Falcons, but they're going against Tampa Bay. The other backup, Huntley, right here, Caleb Huntley. He had a really solid drive, but he pretty much got most of his production during that drive. I just don't think you get to force it against Tampa Bay's really solid run defense. That does it for the running backs. Wide receiver room, I mean, we know what we're getting with Cooper Kupp, 9,600. Same thing with Jefferson going against the Bears. They're not going to be able to stop him. Same thing with Diggs against the Steelers. Tyreek, do think he's going to be very low owned just because Teddy Bridgewater's thrown to him. Do think people are going to rather pay up. But as we saw, Teddy Bridgewater was not shy when it came to force feeding Tyreek the ball. Also, what's his name? Where is he? Waddle. Waddle is questionable. He didn't practice with that groin injury. It looked like he tweaked it at the end of the game versus the Bengals, so definitely keep an eye out on this because if he's out, really solidifies Tyreek Hill is a really, really solid play against the Jets. Deebo Samuel versus the Panthers looks okay. I know he had that big touchdown against the Rams. I just don't like the upside of going against Carolina. I just think, they're going to easily be able to handle that team. Their defense is going to destroy Baker Mayfield. So I like targeting San Fran's defense, which will probably be the most expensive on the slate. Third most expensive. Yeah, I mean, Baker's been brutal. So I don't think I'm going to get to any San Fran players, but maybe their defense. St. Brown didn't practice today. I do think they're going to hold out St. Brown and Swift one more week because then the next week's a bye week. So they're going to give him 2 weeks of rest in this past week. So don't think he's going to be in, but we'll have to keep an eye on for that. A.J. Brown versus Arizona. Really like him. Have a good amount of interest there. Marquise Brown, not a bad option if you want to do a bring back if you're game stacking the Philly versus Arizona. Getting a ton of targets. Mike Williams looks firmly in play as Keenan Allen has not been practicing. CeeDee Lamb, we know what we're getting. This matchup does scare me a little bit going against Jalen Ramsey. Cooper Rush has been very, very good. Feeding CeeDee Lamb the ball. I mean, I think one of these games it's going to have to come to an end. Maybe versus the Rams it happens. So do think I'm going to fade that. I would rather get to Mike Evans in a great matchup, coming off a great game. The Bucs are going to have to look to score. They're coming off. I mean, Tom Brady, I don't think the last time, it's been forever since the last time Tom Brady's lost 3 games in a row. So really thinking they're going to come out throwing punches, scoring a bunch, and do think Tom Brady's going to do well. Same thing with Mike Evans. So going to be one of the most popular wide receivers on the slate, but for good reason going against Atlanta. DK Metcalf looks okay against New Orleans. Waddle, questionable as I said. Allen, questionable as I said, both in a practice. So that really boosts up the main wide receivers if they're both out, like Mike Williams and Tyreek Hill. Christian Kirk against Houston looks pretty solid, coming off of a very bad game against Philadelphia. But he's seen the targets, as you can see, 12, 6, 9, 9. The volume's there. He has the touchdown potential, number 1 wide receiver for Trevor Lawrence. So do like him a good amount against Houston. Gabe Davis. I don't mind getting to Gabe Davis. I do think he's going to go a little bit under-owned, coming off of 2 bad games. The Miami game, he should have had another catch for a touchdown that got called back because of a timeout. Baltimore, obviously that game was just a rain fest. He dropped a few passes. I think he dropped like 3 passes. So it hasn't been as bad as his box score shows. And for that reason, I do think a lot of people are going to be off of him. I do think we can take advantage of the lower ownership, especially if you want to get a piece from this Pittsburgh-Buffalo game because of that high or the spread between them is 14 points. So if, Buffalo's going to blow them out, it's going to be because of Josh Allen passing the ball and these wide receivers doing well. So I don't mind getting to him at 6,400 to get a little bit different. Thielen looks okay versus the Bears. Would rather just pay up for Jefferson or Cook. McLaurin, don't think I'm going to do it. Don't trust Wentz. He's just been bad, very bad this year. Dotson is looking like he might not play this weekend, which would bump up McLaurin's production a little bit more, but don't think you have to go there. Johnson not in play for me. I only got 4 targets. It looks like Pickens is going to be Kenny Pickett's favorite target. Cooks looks pretty solid. I've been on him the past few weeks. I mean, the targets are there. They're going to be down pretty much every game. 6,100 looks like a decent price for Brandon Cooks. Cooper, don't mind getting there if you want to. I mean, the volume will be there if it's a game where they need to score. Otherwise, I do think they're going to prefer to run it. So for that reason, Coop's going to have some good games and some bad games. He's going to seesaw. So I don't think I'm going to take the shot there, but you can definitely do that. Devontae Smith came back down to earth. Once again, that game was more of a hurricane, so they did lose a little production, on both sides of the ball for everyone. But I think I'd rather get to A.J. Brown, cheaper price, more consistent, safer floor for him. Godwin, going to be one of the most popular plays. If he does play, I know he is questionable, but, going against that Atlanta defense, Chris Godwin, it looks very solid, 10 targets as well. So really like both wide receivers there. Let's see, Drake London. Don't mind running it back with Drake London. He is number 1 option on the Falcons. They're going to have to throw the ball because they're going to be down a bunch. So don't mind running it back with him. You can also run it back with Kyle Pitts. I know people are going to prefer to run it back with Drake London just because of him, having a better box score, him getting more targets, being more involved, which makes sense. But you can always take that contrarian stance and go with Kyle Pitts. Thomas is questionable. Samuel's questionable. Boost Olave and that boost McLaurin, especially since Jahan Dotson for the Commanders is already out or most likely going to be out. We have to keep an eye on that, but it's looking like McLaurin might be the only wide receiver, so maybe some value opens up in the Washington room. Olave looks really solid. If Mike Thomas and Jarvis Landry are back, it does boost them down a little bit. I mean, he does have some rapport with Andy Dalton if Andy Dalton plays, but we'll have to keep an eye on that situation. 5,700. Obviously would look great against Seattle's defense. Lockett looks solid, seeing 11, 8 targets. I don't trust Geno Smith, but he's been getting enough targets to where it makes sense. Julio Jones screwed me. Not going to go there. It looks like he retweaked his injury, so I think he's firmly out of play. Ayuk, you can take a dart throw there, but once again, I just think the defense is going to, win on the game easily, so I don't think they have to do it much. Robinson, not for me. Garrett Wilson looks okay. The targets did come down with Zach Wilson back. Robert Woods, I don't mind getting there. Going to be the number 1 option. Treylon Burks is out with a toe injury, I believe. I don't think it's official, but I do think maybe it is official. Yeah, it looks like he's doubtful. So He's going to be seeing most of the targets coming from Tannehill. Once again, they're probably going to run the ball a ton, so he might not see a bunch, but I don't mind taking a shot there if you want a cheap wide receiver in a pretty solid matchup against Washington. DJ Moore, I mean, Baker's just been so bad. He did see 11 targets, which you do like to see, but once again, Baker and this offense are just drastic, so I don't think he'd force that, especially against San Fran's defense. Palmer did get hurt and did come back at the end of the game, so he did lose out on a ton of opportunity. So I don't mind running it back there. People are going to be scared of that box score. McKenzie is questionable. If he's out, that does open up the third wide receiver role for the Buffalo Bills. We'll have to keep an eye out on that. As I said, it's going to be coming out with a shorter version of these picks come Friday or Saturday, so stay tuned for that. Gallup looks pretty okay. I'd trust him more if Dak is back, but I don't think he will be. Who else here? Myers questionable, Chark's questionable. We just have to kind of wait a few more days to get all this news because it does kind of affect the slate when it comes to cheaper wide receivers you want to pay up for. But as I said, George Pickens was the number one option for Kenny Pickett when he played. Saw 8 targets, caught 6 for 102, so he looks really, really solid as a bring back option for this Buffalo Bills stack if you're going to do that, or if you just want a play from that game. That really does it for me. Tight end room, Kittle, just a huge disappointment there. Hawkinson was amazing. Really pissed me off because I didn't have a piece from that game and he just blew up the slates. Same with basically every player in that slate did. Ertz looks decent. I mean, my favorite play would probably be Higbee, just because of the volume he's going to see. I mean, that offense is struggling. Higbee is going to see a ton of targets, so I do like him the best there as a tight end option. But Hawkinson looks okay. Ertz looks okay. Goddard looks pretty solid. He doesn't get a ton of targets, but he does, a good amount with them. So hasn't scored a touchdown yet. Maybe that happens this week, but don't mind getting there. Farmouth, saw 9 targets, which you do like to see. Going to be involved with Kenny Pickett's as well. Njoku, always solid. Seeing more targets now with them being, down to Pittsburgh, them being down to Atlanta, having to keep the game in check. So don't mind getting to Njoku. Conklin looks pretty solid as well. He saw 5 targets. A little bit of a drop there, but it does look like Zach Wilson trusts him a little bit. That really does it for me right now on the tight end room. Irv Smith looks decent against the Bears. The targets have come down a tad, but do expect those to bounce back up. And for the defenses, 14 point spread for this Bills defense. They look really solid as a pay up option. Same with the Bucs. Do think I prefer the 49ers out of all 3, just with how bad Baker Mayfield has been this season. Any cheap options? Let's see here. I don't mind getting to. You could take a shot. Getting to the Cowboys 2,500. No, don't know why they're so cheap. The Rams have been terrible at offense. They have gotten multiple sacks every game. They're leading the league in sacks, this defense is, and QB pressures. The Rams' offense has been terrible. The line's been terrible. So you could definitely take a shot there in the Cowboys. Let's see. You could take a shot on the Seahawks, especially if Andy Dalton's playing. They have the ability to get some sacks, some interceptions. But yeah, that really does it for me for this early look. I will have a shorter version out coming Friday or Saturday of my favorite plays, especially once we get all the injury news. But if you guys like the video, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.